And call this meeting to order April 2nd, 2024. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our April 2nd meeting. We do have a quorum present with all 5 commissioners in attendance today. We would like to recognize Representative Stith for joining us this morning. Good morning, sir. With that, the first order of business this morning, commissioners, is the approval of our agenda. And if there's no questions or corrections, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to make a motion so we could get this meeting going.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. All those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next up under tab A this morning, we've got a public hearing for a budget amendment, Resolution 2404 CL01 for the Public Defender's Office. And with us from the clerk's office is Rebecca Romero. And good morning to you.
Good morning. So today I'm requesting a budget amendment on behalf of the Clerk of District Court to cover the shortfall for an invoice from the State of Public Defense Office in the amount of $17,892.75. This amount would need to be transferred out of the general fund reserves into the Clerk of District Court's operating fund. Also, for your convenience, I have attached a copy of the invoice from the State Public Defender's Office and the email from the accounting department that requested the transfer.
Thanks, Rebecca. Any questions for staff on this amendment, commissioners? Seems pretty straightforward. Thanks for that information. At this time, we will open up the public hearing for Resolution 2404 CL01, a budget amendment for the Public Defender's Office in the amount of $17,892.75. If there's anyone online or in the audience that would like to speak to this amendment, now would be the appropriate time. Hearing and seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards.
move to approve resolution 24-04-CL-01 for the public defender's budget amendment.
Do you have a motion to approve by Commissioner Richards? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Moving right along in the agenda, commissioners, we have county resident comments and concerns. This time, if there's any member of the public, excuse me, who would wish to address the governing body on any issues, now would be the appropriate time. Good morning, Representative.
Good morning, Chairman West, commissioners. So my name is Clark Stith, represent House District 48, Rock Springs. Just wanted to stop by and say hello after the legislative session is over. Some of you attended the town hall that the local legislators had, but you may not have had a chance to ask questions. So that's another purpose that I'm here today. I'm happy to report that there will not be a special session. I think we did good work during the legislative session, and I think the people of Wyoming are probably safer when the legislature is not in session. So the budget this year was a budget session. The budget turned out pretty well for Sweetwater County, as you're probably aware. We got a number of good things. One of them was an additional $1 million for to help local governments in their efforts if they have disputes with the federal government. So that raises the total to $2 million. Now, $850,000 of that was then later earmarked for the Wyoming County Commissioners Association to hire a couple of folks to deal with that. But the intent of that extra $1 million, frankly, was to help Sweetwater County in the event that you find yourself in the position where you might need to, pick a fight with the United States Bureau of Land Management over whatever they might do with the resource management plan. So that's one concrete thing. As you're probably also aware, there was $6 million that was put in for the Joint Powers Water Board here in Green River to assist with its a backup, essentially a backup water pump. Right now, there's a single point of failure for all the water that goes to every residence in Green River and Rock Springs. If that one pump fails, then everybody's out of water. So it's about that there's about $6 million in the omnibus water bill for that. I think that's something concrete. And then, of course, in Rock Springs, got the high school, so that was a win there. We made some progress on property tax relief and reform. Property tax refund program fully funded at $20 million. So I think the county treasurer will probably be busier this season with refunds than perhaps in the past. In the past, the Sweetwater County hasn't utilized that program as much as some other counties, in part because in the past, the eligibility criteria were more stringent. You had to be at 75% or less of median income to qualify. But now that's been bumped up to 145% after the governor's partial veto. So you can be up to 145% of median income, which puts you well into a six-figure income, and still be allowed to apply for a property tax refund. Whether you get the full refund, the maximum amount possible is 75% of your tax bill. So that's pretty good, really good. If you're above 125% of median income, there's a sliding scale. You don't get as much off on your taxes. There are some also essentially wealth requirements too. If you have more than $150,000 cash in the bank, then you're not eligible to file for that. But something should give relief for some people as well. The amendment on the proposal of the sale of the Kelly parcel up in Teton County to sell that state section to the federal government, the condition that it will not be sold unless the Bureau of Land Management does not select alternative B for oil and gas and rights of way. That made it through the final. So that's a condition. So I think we'll see. Who knows how the BLM will respond to that, if at all, right? But at least it says that if they're going to shut down oil and gas and shut down rights of way in Sweetwater County, then we're not going to sell state section to the federal government. So with that, I'll stop talking and open it up for questions you might have.
Thanks, Representative Stith. Appreciate you coming over this morning. I know it's been rather chaotic over the last couple of weeks. I did attend that legislative panel, and that was an interesting night as well. But yeah, I wasn't sure, none of us were really sure at that time what action the governor might take. And so then all things kind of got turned upside down a little bit, but I'm glad to see from a personal opinion that there's not going to be a special session, but appreciate your work down there. That was an interesting year to say the least, and lots of back and forth. So thanks for keeping us in the loop. Questions, commissioners?
That's not Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jones, we'll start with you.
Thanks for coming, Representative Stith. Just a question. So all of the property taxes, though, that is backfilled for the counties, am I correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jones, yes, that's correct. It's all backfilled, so there will be no loss of revenue to any of the counties. And in the budget bill, there's $20 million set aside statewide for that. So if the program is oversubscribed, which frankly is likely, then someone who would otherwise be entitled to a 75% refund on their property tax might get, less than that because it'll be prorated. But the counties are made whole.
And I think my concern with special session, and heard several people behind the scenes talking about it, if you all went back into a special session, the 25% reduction at least was going to start out as not being backfilled for the counties. You would think it would be in the end, but there's no guarantees, and that would have cost our county about $4.5 million. So that was a great concern of mine.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Jones, yes, to fully backfill Senate File 54, which is going to give a 25% reduction to all homeowners all across the state on their property taxes, would have cost about $220 million in a 2-year period. So the price tag on that was pretty high, which is, I suppose part of the reason the governor vetoed that. That was in Senate File 54 as passed on final reading. It did provide for a full backfill for those 2 years, but at the expense of, frankly, that much money coming out of the general fund.
Commissioner Richards?
Representative Stith, thanks for coming. Late in the session, Representative Harshman had a bill that would have replaced personal property tax, individual property tax with a higher sales tax. I really felt it wasn't vetted out, but it is an interesting concept. It looks like Management Council is approved to bring that back as an interim topic. What do you see happening there?
Chairman West, Commissioner Richards, yes, we did just yesterday at Management Council approve the Revenue Committee to continue looking at that. I spoke against that bill for a couple of reasons. One, it's regressive. Two, it's volatile. And worse, it puts the incentives in the wrong place as crafted for special districts, because what it was going to do is add 2% on sales tax, which would generate a lot of money to essentially get rid of 97% of everybody's property tax initially. But the problem is special districts that say have the ability now to levy 3 mills, but only levying 2, they would have had every incentive to just levy all of it. And then it would also have been very punishing to, frankly, Project West, because they're, an extra 2% on their sales tax was estimated to cost Project West an extra $50 million. So, but it's coming back. We'll fight that battle once again. And I'm sure this has occurred to you as well. Another piece of it is if you actually increased state sales tax statewide by an additional 2%, that would probably dampen your ability to do special purpose excise taxes in the future, I would think, because then, people would be faced with voting for, instead of voting for a 6th penny, they'd be voting for an 8th penny. And that could really constrain your ability to get projects done here in the county. So as you can tell, I'm not a fan of that, but we'll see what happens next year.
Any other Commissioner Slaughter?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Steph, thank you. Always appreciate you coming to report to us. I did want to mention, I saw yesterday in the Cowboy State Daily, with respect to the Kelly parcel, the state's decided that they want to turn it into a national airport, and that they're going to have 2 10,000-foot runways to be able to land large global air traffic. Very interesting. It was an April Fool's joke, obviously, but I thought that was kind of interesting to see that. Also, not with respect to the session, but you and I have had several conversations with respect to some money that was appropriated previously for energy roads and energy road assistance. In talking with Public Works Director Legursky, my understanding is that you have set up a tentative meeting to meet with Randall Luthi to see if that would be appropriate and if we are eligible for that funding. Could you elaborate just a little bit on that?
Sure, Chairman West, Commissioner Slaughter. Yeah, this money was allocated in 2021, so it's been sitting in the governor's office for some time. It was a total of $10 million to be split between Campbell County and Sweetwater County for roads related to the energy sector. So Gillette went and grabbed more than their fair share. I think they've taken about $6 million of it, I think. Whatever remaining balance there is available to us. And I think I just spoke yesterday in person with Randall Luthi, who's kind of the person in the governor's office who's supposed to be coordinating that and who says the money's there for us. He said he'd be available for like a 20-minute phone call just to smooth out how the county can apply for that. But it's there for Sweetwater County. It was threatened to have been taken away by a Senate amendment, actually, but it's still in the budget. It's still there. So yeah, and I think your staff has done a good job of trying to communicate with the governor's office and with me. Okay. I think Mr. Legursky sent me an email like on February the 10th, and I don't think I responded for a month. So I apologize for that. But we're hopeful in the next week or so to at least jump on a call with the governor's office to get that squared away, how we apply for money. And I think the criteria are vague enough. And maybe what makes it difficult for your staff to deal with is that it's not part of some regular program. This was just put in as an amendment by then Speaker Eric Barlow, kind of at the last minute in the 2021 session. So in any event, but that should help out as well, hopefully. So I'm looking for progress on that. In a similar vein, your staff was also paying attention in January, thank you very much, about the American Rescue Plan Act funds. There's actually a little bit of money left over. And your staff was paying attention with respect to if you are in a qualifying census tract, you're almost automatically eligible for pretty much anything. And it turns out there's only 3 qualifying census tracts in the entire state. And one of them is in Rock Springs, and it starts essentially at about north of the railroad tracks or Elk Street and the railroad tracks, but it goes all the way out to Reliance, then over and then back to essentially the Swanson Trailer Court, back down to the railroad tracks. In any event, I believe your staff applied for some outdoor recreation funding, I believe. But anyway, and there was a deadline in January that I was frankly unaware of until 7 days before. But in addition, that money is still there. And the way I should say it is this: of the $1 billion that was allocated to Wyoming a few years back for ARPA, there is now on the tail end what they expect to be between $55 and $80 million kind of left over that's got to be obligated by the end of this year. So if there's another project that you guys are thinking of that you think either is direct ARPA eligible or that the county might believe is in this qualifying census tract out in that area, and I don't know if there is such a project, but the governor's office is going to have a lot of discretion to deal with that money in the next 6-8 months. So, but yes, that's an overly long answer to your question. But yes, we're making progress on that.
Super. Thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner Tillman.
Yes, Representative Stitt, would that funding be eligible for the airport? Because we're going to need an additional 21 million. Most of it's covered except for about 5.3 million to finish the terminal project.
Commissioner West, Commissioner Tillman, the ARPA eligibility has been broadened initially. So when the regulations came out initially 3 years ago now, you could only spend it on water, sewer, broadband, and some other narrow categories. In the meantime, as other states have had time spending the money, they've broadened it out to include some transportation things, including for highways. So, which really surprised me. So transportation is now a new category there. So I don't know the answer to that specific question about the airport itself being eligible for direct ARPA funds, but it might be just because the federal government has now changed its mind about what the law means.
Well,
So,
possibly for North Baxter, the water project, we don't have water at the airport either.
so and of course it's $80 million spread out statewide, and there's lots of people out there asking for it. One problem that we have with water projects is that unless it's already designed and ready to go to bid, it's really hard to meet the timelines because you actually have to award the contract before December 31st. And so if it's a project that's still in the planning stages, it's probably not going to work for ARPA. That Rollins is in that situation. Rollins has both distribution lines and water lines. In the city of Rollins, they're made out of wood and that were constructed a century ago. That you would think they would be a natural candidate for these ARPA funds, but for whatever reason, they haven't been able to get their ducks in a row to actually have a design so they can actually do a bid. So they won't get any of this money, not because it's not eligible in theory, just because logistically they can't award the project in time. So that could be a constraint.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions, commissioners? Well, Representative, as always, we appreciate you
Yeah.
coming over and keeping us in the loop and for the ongoing relationship we have with you down in Cheyenne. So keep up the good work and we'll see what the next year brings.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Still under county resident comments and concerns. If there's anyone else that would like to address the governing body, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. And that's going to move us right along into tab B, commissioners. Before you this morning is 10 items under the consent agenda. The first is the approval of the March 19th, 2024 meeting minutes. Second is the special meeting minutes from the March 21st, 2024 meeting. Third is the approval of the county vouchers, warrants, EALs, and the commissioner's report. Fourth is the approval of the abates and rebates. Fifth, a request to restaff a vacant position in the sheriff's office. Sixth is an amended resolution under 2403EN01 to address a typographical error. Seventh is the 2024 WCCA congressional tour fee per the MOU. And I'll give a brief explanation on that. Eighth is a ratify a letter of support for the city of Rock Springs' federal appropriation funding request for phase 2 of their Bitter Creek Restoration Project. 9 is ratifying a letter of support for the Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport's congressionally directed spending request for the General Aviation Rehabilitation and Expansion Project. And 10th is to ratify a welcome letter to the Sweetwater Events Complex and members of the Scapies RV Club for the 63rd Escapade. On that congressional tour, commissioners, that is a previous MOU that the last administration had approved. And so I just wanted to make you all aware of that. We are tied to paying that due, which is hosted in Sublette County this year. And so that came up through us in our EAL report, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention so that you all could be made aware. But with that, are there any other questions or requests for removal? Commissioner Richards?
Mr. Chairman, just on that MOU, do you know when Southwest Wyoming is scheduled for one of those tours? And they,
I
Did you
believe
say
it's
next
next
year?
on that list. They had
Yeah.
a list. I think it works across. I think we're next. I'm not sure. But
And talking to Micah, it sounded like next year is likely our turn. But there's supposed to be some further discussion on that. So. Any other comments on the consent?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Richards?
move to approve the consent agenda.
Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed by Commissioner Richards? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Moving right along into the commissioner comments portion of the agenda. Looks like I'm up first, so Mary's buying lunch today, which is nice.
no,
I'll
I
try
think
and
we're buying lunch today.
try and make it quick here since we have a stacked agenda. I did attend the legislative panel that we just spoke to with Representative Stith on March 21st at the Rock Springs, the Rock Springs Chamber hosted in the City of Rock Springs Council Chambers. Made me a little bit nervous for our Coffee with Commissioners event this Thursday, but it was always good to hear additional thoughts from our local representatives and senators. As we just talked about at that point in time, the governor hadn't acted on some of the legislation, so it was still unknown as to whether some of the different bills would meet approval or not. Obviously, since then, we've learned that there were a handful of vetoes and almost another special session, but good events to help keep the public informed, and look forward to ours on Thursday. I had a conference call with staff and the Wyoming Department of Health, along with Southwest Counseling's board chair on Monday, the 25th. Staff had been asked to contact the Department of Health for clarification on jail-based treatment and how the different reform requirements may or may not affect that program, to help clarify any guidance for the sheriff and the detention center. Through this conversation, it was shared that Natrona County will be implementing a pilot program beginning this July that focuses on a 23-hour stabilization bed program. And the idea behind that is kind of the first stop, so to speak. And so it seems like in our experiences here with mental health and even behavioral health that perhaps some of these individuals are getting titled and then they get to the hospital, and after, about 24 hours, they determine that they don't need to be titled, and so they're released or, taken to, I guess, through a different program. And so the idea is to kind of have this be the first stop, so to speak. If there's detoxification or whatever the case may be, that after that initial 23-hour, I guess, time frame, that the individuals could then be either released, through case management measures, or, placed in a subacute bed or something along those lines. It's all voluntary in nature, but the idea is to kind of fill that gap within the acute care crisis that we've been speaking about for months and years. And so we're trying to work together with the different stakeholders to figure out a way to fill in that gap. A lot of these services are already being provided from the hospital standpoint. So I'll elaborate on that a little bit more in another meeting I had yesterday, but it's kind of an interesting concept, one that sounds simple, but we want to make sure we get it set up right. So again, I'll explain more here shortly on that. The morning of the 27th, I attended my monthly Board of Health meeting. I don't have a whole lot to share there, but you probably saw the PSA on measles in the media yesterday. The nation is seeing an uptick of measles cases, so the Board of Health is keeping their eye on prevention and vaccination efforts there. They've also submitted both of their budget requests to each city. I'm a little frustrated to report that after working with them and Treasurer Cowan last month, including extra meetings outside of their regulars, along with a special meeting, they submitted a lower request to the city of Green River than what was originally suggested and discussed at their last special meeting, which really makes you question why you even bother when you take time to produce spreadsheets and gather data to have it all be then for nothing. I was very disappointed walking away from that meeting, but I've been telling them for 2 years now, as I keep informing you all, that once those reserves are spent down, they will be forced to make some difficult decisions. For whatever reason, that doesn't seem to be setting in. So that will be next year when those decisions come about. The current projections are that they will be requesting us for an additional $200,000+ in order to balance their budget. And obviously that will not have my support with all of that considered. So hopefully things turn around there, but pretty frustrated. I attended my monthly Southwest Counseling Board meeting last Wednesday as well. They had a workshop right before the meeting to hear a presentation from a consultant company they hired called Open Minds. Originally, I thought the presentation was for guidance on Enroll Wyoming, which is the Medicaid program that will now be required for the different tiered populations within the mental health redesign program. But the presentation was centered more around guidance and how to make their operation more efficient through the use of different technologies, along with ideas on how to help the organization grow. After the workshop, the board heard updates from staff on a variety of other topics. The budget request they have prepared to date includes about a 61% increase to us from last year, which counts for a new capital request in the amount of $381,000. So that should be interesting at budget time. I don't think the idea of bringing capital projects through the capital committee was intended for the county to then fund all capital improvements for each of our component units, but we'll work through that in the months ahead. Staff has also kicked off the Enroll Wyoming registration process, which is again the Medicaid portal, and they're familiarizing themselves with that process in preparation for the initial kickoff on July 1st. The organization also shared that they have successfully hired a psychiatric nurse practitioner who will begin towards the end of this month. And they've also recruited another clinician who will begin in June. Very difficult positions to fill, so they were pretty excited about that. I had an interview with Madeline Beck with WildFile last Friday, who reached out to inquire about the opioid settlement funds we've received and what our plans are in utilizing those funds. She had viewed a state report showing the different counties and city funding amounts and the corresponding amounts spent out of those funds. And speaking with Madeline, it sounds like we aren't alone in our struggles to find some clarity on what those funds can be spent on. It seems obvious that a good majority of those would go towards local mental health centers, but until we can get some clarification on the different strings attached and the reporting requirements, the monies remain in an account simply earning interest. Although we have not expended any of these funds, there are no deadlines as far as when they have to be spent by, just as an FYI for you all. And in talking with our staff, it appears as though some of these ongoing settlements will continue into 2038 and beyond. And so while I'd say there's no rush, it's probably something we will want to discuss in the near future, perhaps during budget, to see if we can put some of these ongoing crises. Yesterday, staff and I had discussions with Memorial Hospital's CEO Irene Richardson and legal counsel Susan Campbell on the stabilization beds I just spoke to. The hospital appeared to be on board, which was kind of exciting. It was their belief that this process is already taking place. It's just right now it's kind of immediately in that 72-hour, Title 25 timeframe where this would allow for a 23-hour period before that 72-hour period starts. And so the thought is that the state would essentially be funding that first, initial 23 hours before it's determined whether or not the individual needs to then go through the title process of the 72 hours. And so overall, if we can successfully implement that, that's a savings to the state and a savings, to the county. And I also think, a better solution for the individuals who may be going through some of the different behavioral mental health struggles. Because as you know, we pay for the first 72 hours plus weekends and holidays. And then after that, the state kicks in their funding. So the idea of stabilization beds, they believe they can accommodate because they are currently doing that, especially with it only being essentially an overnight stay, but it helps fill that gap between the 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. timeframe when, law enforcement and others don't have anywhere to take these individuals. And so some of those complaints we heard about with different officers that presented here a couple meetings ago, but we will continue to have further discussions here. There is a little bit of excitement that we may finally have an option to address this very needed gap of service. Like I said earlier, it's going to take multiple stakeholders to come together to make it work, but we've also learned in our discussions that there's funding available from the Department of Health during this first year. Southwest Counseling has applied for a portion of this funding. It's about $3.2 million that's left over ARPA funding. And there's different programs you can apply to. The one that Southwest applied for was for crisis intervention and crisis subacute beds. But it was never brought to our attention that this can also be utilized for stabilization beds. And so we may have to do some amendments or shift some of that, in which case I'll be, asking for some of your approval there at our next meeting. But still, we need to get all the stakeholders together to finalize the details on this to see if we can make it a reality. So aside from that, commissioners, it was lots of letter writing, as you just saw on the consent agenda, and it appears to be the month of proclamations. So I learned last year that it seems once April hits, that kicks off the busy season for us with the budget on the horizon, although I would also argue that this job is never not busy. So hope to have more for you on the stabilization program next meeting. And with that, let's stand for any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Richards.
just a comment. I want to thank you for all the time and expertise you put into health issues and mental health issues. I don't think any one of us could give the attention that you do to the subject. And I know it's like beating your head against a wall, but what you do is appreciated.
Thanks, Commissioner. It's a difficult one, but hopefully we can make some good strides forward. So thank you for that. Looks like Commissioner Slaughter, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the 20th, I took the opportunity to watch County Planner Eric Bingham when he gave testimony before the Congressional Federal Land Subcommittee. It was exciting to see Representative Sweetwater County participating in our governmental process at this level. Eric was testifying at the request of Congresswoman Hageman on her bill HR 6085 to prohibit the implementation of the draft resource management plan and environmental impact statement for the Rock Springs RMP revision and for other purposes. Eric was professional and articulated many of the concerns we all have with the RSRMP draft proposal. A special thanks to Representative Hageman for her stringent opposition to this example of government overreach. That afternoon, I participated with Commissioner Richards and staff to consider a fiscal year 24 collaborative outdoor recreation grant. It was determined that the timeframe for application was too short and the best course of action was to revisit this grant in the future when we had better information on potential projects and more time to respond. That evening, Mariella and I attended the open house sponsored by Pacific Soda Dry Creek Soda Ash at the Holiday Inn. Representatives of Dry Creek Soda presented information on their proposed solution mining and refinery operation. It was a more thorough representation of the presentation we were given at the 3/19/24 commission meeting and was intended to inform members of the general public of the specifics of their project. On the 21st, I attended the commission special meeting for consideration and potential action on the 2023 Sweetwater County annual audit. The audit conducted by McGee, Hearn and Pies was presented and approved. That afternoon, I attended a luncheon sponsored by the SEDC. Rita Meyer, a representative of TerraPower, gave a presentation on the progress that has been made on the nuclear power plant at Kemmer. Things are moving forward on that plan, and Ms. Meyer provided information on several things associated with nuclear power that I found very interesting. This is another of the exciting developments that are currently planned for southwestern Wyoming and will certainly have many impacts here in Sweetwater County. On the 23rd, I attended the ceremony to honor the sacrifices of veterans during the Wyoming Veterans Welcome Home Day held at the Archie Hay Post 24. Governor Gordon and his wife Jenny were attended and were joined by Adjutant General of Wyoming, Major General Greg Porter, and Command Sergeant Major retired Kenneth Person, Chairman of the Wyoming Veterans Service Commission. It was excellent to hear stories from the perspective of our veterans and was a great opportunity to honor the sacrifices they have made for all of us. On the 1st, I spent the day in my office preparing for this meeting and answering constituent concerns. I also worked on a presentation that I'm planning for a meeting with residents of the McKinnon area regarding our plans for County Road 1. As you're all aware, we received final road rehabilitation study and we'll be discussing it later today. I set up a meeting for tomorrow night in McKinnon to discuss our plans moving forward and to take comment from those people most affected by this road. Commissioner Richards and Public Works Director Legursky will be accompanying me to address the community. Later yesterday morning, I worked with Assessor Davis to help me understand where we are with the monthly collection of mineral taxes and where we are in relation to prior years. We had a good discussion and he was helpful. I think our discussion will help me with the development of this year's budget. Also, yesterday we received Public Works Director Legursky's monthly report. I will read it into the record. The Public Works Department, April 2nd, 2024 buildings. Both main sewer trunk lines at the Green River Courthouse were relined 2 weekends ago. The project took longer than expected because the 4-inch line was in such bad shape. Everything looks new again, excuse me, and is draining correctly. The smaller 3-inch line will be relined in a couple of weeks. We videoed the sewer service line at the Rock Springs Youth Home and everything looks to be in good shape. The remediation of the bathroom is complete and we can start working on fixing the broken, damaged fixtures in this area. The maintenance crew handled 71 work order requests in March. Road and Bridge crews started repairing roads in the Farson Eden area. We are hauling 2-inch to 4-inch crushed concrete and concrete base into soft spots that are developing as the frost comes out of the ground. We are also hauling material to Wamsutter Crooks Gap Road North and Wamsutter Crooks Gap Road South for soft spot repair. Crews also started patching some of the many potholes in Jamestown, North Rock Springs, and surrounding areas. Engineering, bids for the 2024 congestion mitigation and air quality project are due at the end of this week. Bids for the 2024 paint striping project are due during the middle of next week. We've been reviewing the 50% design plans for the reconstruction of the first mile of Wamsutter Crooks Gap Road North. And a tentative meeting, as we alluded to with Representative Stith, has been set up with Randall Luthi of the governor's office and Representative Stith to see if we qualify to access energy road money that was set aside for projects such as Wamsutter Crooks Gap Road North. With that, Mr. Chairman, I end my report and I would stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Questions for Commissioner Slaughter's report? If not, Commissioner Toman, you have the floor.
Well, Commissioner Slaughter made my report easier. I can skip over a few things. On the 20th, I attended the Rock Springs Airport Board meeting. Plans are moving forward with the construction of the new commercial terminal modernization. Phase 1 will begin April 1st with 2 full-time site superintendents. And if funding is received for Phase 2, the project will be completed the summer of 2025. They anticipate 2.1 million to finish the project with local 5.3 million needed yet. They had a successful audit report. On March 15th, they had the worst storm that they have had in 20 years with 4.5 feet of snow drifts and 15 inches of new snow, that was amazing. There are national pilot shortages, so that's creating a lot of the problems with continuing air service here and other smaller airports, but we will be seeing that request a considerable increase in funding required to continue supporting the air service to Rock Springs. As part of the Southwest Manufacturing Partnership, the Innovation and Education Program is reaching out with surveys to find opportunities for youth to transition between school and work. And as part of that, Devin and I will be working with Melissa Atkinson, and we'll be at Green River High School on April 17th to talk about the airport and pilots. On the 21st, I attended a special meeting to approve the audit report. And that morning I was on Zoom for a little bit with the Coalition of Local Governments, updating on the federal projects, which there is a 2-page agenda once a month with that group dealing with all of our federal partnerships. We have Pacific Core IRP public meeting, May 2nd, oil and gas leasing, carbon storage projects, sage grouse plan amendments. Bridger Teton National Forest planning process is beginning, and they had a letter which we will ratify next time. Attended the Pacific Soda Open House that day. Did watch Eric Bingham's presentation to Representative Hageman, and I want to thank John DeLeon for assistance with preparing the comments and assisting with that. Attended the Terra Power luncheon with Rita Meyer. And that evening, I attended the Green River High School. They have an annual advisory committee meeting with industry so they can apply for the Perkins Grant, which is one of the more successful federal programs. It's been in place, I think, since I was in high school, and it provides local initiative for vocational programs. So they asked for input, and Melissa Atkinson's, Ryan Bledsoe, Ron Wise, and I participated in reviewing their application and providing input on the role of industry, jobs in the area, and the future of those jobs, and guidance for what types of programs that they should ask for assistance at the high school. And while I'm on the topic of a Sweetwater Southwest Manufacturing Partnership, I would like to introduce, if you'd like to stand up, my niece, Taylor Hernandez, who is a freshman. She will be a sophomore at Green River High School. She's attended the One Room Ranch School, and her FFA teacher recognized her in the Green River Star on March 16th, the Genesis Alkali Votech Student Spotlight. She was nominated along with Ivory Naher. Both of these ladies represent our FFA chapter in speaking competitions and made it to the regional round. We are proud of their hard work, dedication, and pushing themselves to try something new. We can now ask for 2 more amazing ladies to represent our school. Congratulations on a job well done. But I asked her to come to observe what a commissioner does for a day. So as part of my outreach, sharing my career also. She'll probably give me a critique later though. So thanks, Taylor. She spent her spring break checking cows at midnight every night, so we keep her busy on the ranch. On the 26th, I attended the Young at Heart Senior Center meeting as liaison. They're showing positive strength in their financials, and their early learning center enrollment is maxed out. They could almost double that enrollment if they had the space to do so, with other programs it was called anyway, for the very young, but they cannot do that now at that facility. On April 13th, they will have a casino night beginning at 5 o'clock, and they want to invite the whole community to come and spend money as part of their fundraisers. On March 29th, I participated in a Zoom meeting on that BLM drought management plan. There was discussion on the important role of private landowners in providing quality winter habitat for sage grouse and other wildlife. But again, the federal agency, this is one of their policy rulemaking decisions where they want us to help implement their policies and their rules, but they don't want us to even see a draft until they come out with a final. So every time we ask them, well, really, I mean, what good is our input? And well, we just want you to help implement when they come out with their plan or their rule. So that's kind of frustrating to participate in meetings and have discussions, and then every time you ask them, it's not really a cooperative meeting. No, this is just a policy rule, so we don't really have to, ask your, I don't know, it drives me crazy, but moving on. Off of that, we are attending probably 2 and 3 meetings a day, and a lot of these are these federal agency cooperator types of meetings. Fontenelle Reservoir is to have the flows reduced to 600 CFS from 1,200 beginning April 1st to April 30th while they do the maintenance on the power plant. That's major, and I commented that I didn't think that was the wisest decision with the warm weather coming and the water coming in. So you should see by today, you should see the river at half its normal size, because I believe it takes it 3 or 4 days to get down here. So I did ask Rick Baxter to be sure to attend our meeting on April 16th, because as the only city between these two reservoirs, I think it's important that they report to us after when he had earlier told me that, oh, they were too busy, they were 20 staff members down. I said, I think it's very important. So he said he would do his best to report back on April 16th. So that'll be our time to ask him questions, I guess. I never can understand how they figure out how to manage that reservoir either. So I guess I'm not the expert on all these things. Jackalope Wind Open House will be tomorrow at the Holiday Inn in Rock Springs at 4 p.m. I know Eric's planning to attend, and if any of you can, that's going to be a major wind project in Sweetwater County. We have coffee with the commissioners on Thursday, April 4th, 6 p.m. at Young at Heart. And on Thursday, the enterprise meeting at 7 a.m. at the hospital with Pacific Trona and the cooperators. And also we have a cooperator meeting for that project at 3 p.m. on Zoom. Federal partner meeting at 9 a.m. at the Chamber of Commerce in Rock Springs or on Zoom. Southwest Manufacturing Partnership is having a career fair on the 3rd tomorrow from 10 to 3 at the college. And April 16th is our annual federal partners report to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate your report and for all your work with federal land issues and others. Questions, commissioners? Well, thanks to Taylor for being here too, and congratulations on your student spotlight. Sounds like you have a bright future ahead of you, especially if you're a chip off the old block here with your aunts. So thanks for coming today and keeping us honest. With no other questions, Commissioner Richards, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I had a pretty light load over the last couple of weeks since I wasn't here for most of it. But I promise I thought about all of you the whole time I was on vacation in the Gulf of Mexico and along the eastern Yucatan Peninsula. And as promised, I had a drink for each of you. Before I left for vacation, I did squeeze in a couple of meetings though. On March 20th, I joined Commissioner Slaughter in a meeting with Christina Marshall, Candy Pendleton, and Jean Legursky to discuss the possibility of applying for some available funds through the Outdoor Collaborative Grant. We determined that we weren't ready to apply for this round, but we identified a couple of possible projects that we plan to have ready for when the next round of funding presents itself. I believe the legislature has funded that through a trust. So it should be a permanent funded grant that should come around every year. So we will have plenty of opportunities to pursue that. Later that day, I attended the Pacific Soda Open House in Rock Springs, got a little more information about their Dry Creek Trona mine. Then, of course, I was back here with all of you on the morning of the 21st for our special meeting, after which I got on the road and headed off for warmer climates. I returned early yesterday morning, and as much as I enjoyed my time off, I'm glad to be home and getting back to work. Going forward, tomorrow evening, I'll join Commissioner Slaughter at a town hall meeting in McKinnon to talk about plans for County Road number 1 and the road rehabilitation study that we'll be hearing about next on our agenda, I guess. On Thursday morning, I'll attend a quarterly meeting of the Air Quality Advisory Board. And then Thursday evening, I'll join all of you at Young at Heart Senior Center for coffee with the commissioners. So a couple of great chances to interface with constituents and hear what's on their minds. On Friday morning, I'll attend the monthly federal partners meeting at the Chamber of Commerce. Then next week on the 10th, I'll attend the first meeting in a few months of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And it looks like it's going to be a busy one with 6 hearings, I believe. Additionally, I'm also happy to report that all of our fellow governments approved and signed the Project West MOU, with the last signature coming in with just minutes to spare. So we're ready for the next step of that process. Eric, John DeLeon, and I will coordinate this month to nail down all of our impact applications and organize and prepare a testimony for the industrial siting hearing in May. I would also be remiss if I didn't recognize the work that our land use director did on Sweetwater County's behalf when he testified in front of Congress a couple weeks ago regarding the draft Rock Springs RMP. and the negative consequences that we all face because of the way BLM has handled this process. He did a fantastic job, and also thanks to Mr. De Leon for all the help he gave in preparing for that testimony. On the 11th, the monthly SEDC Advisory Board meeting is scheduled. Then on the 15th, I'll join John King on KREO for our monthly visit, followed by the Sweetwater County Outdoor Recreation Collaborative Steering Committee meeting and the monthly Library Board meeting. That brings me full circle back to see all of you again here on the 16th. I think that's all I have for you today, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate that. I'm glad you were able to kick back and enjoy some warmer weather and some drinks, hopefully on Mary. Any questions for Commissioner Richards' report, Commissioners? If not, it sounds like you're right back into the swing of things. Commissioner Jones, you're bringing up the rear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to compliment you on your choice of suits today. On March 20th, I watched Land Use Director Bingham testify in Washington, D.C. regarding the BLM RMP, as most of us did. As expected, Mr. Bingham was well prepared and did an excellent job, not only representing Sweetwater County, but also giving his testimony and answering questions. He's not in the room, but I do want to thank him again for all he does for Sweetwater County. Also on the 20th, I attended the public meeting put on by Pacific Soda at the Holiday Inn. Obviously, that was after their presentation to us. I didn't have too many questions. I do think they do a good job of explaining to the general public what their plan is and what they want to do. So it was a good get together. After that, also on the 20th, I attended the museum board meeting. Those are always fun and interesting meetings. I enjoy them. They discussed looking at national accreditation and what all that entails. They do have a vacant position that they discussed whether or not they want to fill it, and how that might look. It's a position that they've had in the past, so it's not an additional position. They will be receiving a rock art display in the next week or so. I'm not exactly sure what day that's going to get here, but looking forward to seeing that display. On the 21st, I attended the Joint Powers Telecommunication Board, mostly bill paying and monthly reviews, so not anything exciting to report there. On the 21st, I also attended the town hall that was mentioned. Definitely interesting to hear from different people, and always good to hear from our legislators. On the 22nd, I was asked to attend a Zoom call with the Wyoming Business Council, Senator Jones, Treasurer Cowan, Senator Dockstader to discuss housing in Sweetwater County and our Trona expansions. It was an initial meeting, so more to come on that, but a few ideas batted around that may create some resources that can be utilized for us going forward. Also on the 22nd, I attended a Zoom call with various representatives from our Trona industry, as well as Senator Jones, to review our trip to Washington, D.C. Obviously, they wanted to know what took place and how the meeting went with BLM Director Stone Manning. Seems like they were happy with what we had to say and appreciative of us making the trip. On the 24th and 25th, I went to Jackson so I could attend the World Championship Snowmobile Hill Climb. Wasn't there just for fun, although it was a good time. But I volunteered in the Wyoming State Snowmobile Association booth, which just helps share information from what we do around the state in our fight for public access to public lands. On the 25th, I attended the Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County Building and Grounds meeting, where they discussed maintenance metrics that have been set up, the work on the oncology suite, the work on medical imaging, and the possible contract for the GMP or guaranteed maximum price they received for the lab renovation and expansion. On the 26th, I attended the Patient and Family Advisory Committee breakfast meeting at the hospital, where proper nutrition and diabetes prevention was presented. This committee is made up of mostly the public. It's the idea is to get feedback directly from the public in order to make improvements going forward. This is really a group of people that are willing to speak openly and honestly about the things that are good and the things that need to change at the hospital. So it's had a real positive effect in the end in patient care at the hospital. Also on the 26th, I was asked to join a Zoom call to form a working group that will be working on motorized perspective regarding the Bridger Teton National Forest and their land use plan, which is eerily similar to the BLM RMP. I think I mentioned this in a couple of meetings ago. But now it's underway. And so now our access to the Bridger Teton National Forest may be under attack. So we'll see what happens going forward with that one. On the 27th, I was interviewed by Joshua Kennedy. He's a student at the University of Wyoming. He and others are doing a report on recreation in the Red Desert. So he was asking me several questions about motorized access, tourism, and of course, the BLM RMP came into play. So had about a 45-minute conversation with him. Great kid. And I really enjoyed my time with him. Also on the 27th, I attended the Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County Finance Committee meeting. They, of course, discussed the lab renovation expansion that I mentioned earlier, because that process goes from building and grounds to finance to the full board. So it's natural progression. Also discussed was the fact that they had another high revenue month and a great bottom line. So just lots of positive things happening at the hospital. The number of patients continue to grow, so I think that's pretty telling. They do expect low numbers coming up this month and maybe the following month, which is normal for this time of year. But the last note was the clinic had its highest revenue month in history. So lots of good things going on at the hospital and all around the county. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Commissioner. I did not see you at the hill climbs, which is too bad because I would have came and stole your wallet. There was plenty of good things there.
There was. I didn't buy anything except for raffle tickets this year. That's uncommon. So
Questions for Commissioner Jones's report? Well, good work as always, commissioners. There was a lot going on. I did kind of enjoy watching Eric's testimony. I don't think they could have squeezed another person into that panel. He looked like he could barely even turn his page over. So good work to that. Lots going on for Sweetwater County and good representation out there, but great
Chairman?
Commissioner Toman, as always.
Yes. Well, I forgot to tell you why Eric's not in the meeting. He's down there listening to a Zoom meeting on those 386 corridors that go through like 7 states. So he's on a Zoom meeting for that, representing the county right now. Thanks, Eric.
With that, commissioners, that's going to move us right along in tab C on the agenda, which is our action and presentation items. First up, we've got the presentation of County Road number 1, the McKinnon Road Rehabilitation Study. With us this morning is Public Works Director Gene Legursky. And good morning, Gene. Busy one for you today.
Kind of. Glad I'm not busy.
Technology.
For some reason, it's not just automatically going to that screen.
Well, here's the real book if you need it.
Well, unless you want me to go over the whole entire book, but you guys are actually on schedule, so I don't think you guys want me to really do that. So what I kind of did is put together just a little bit of a slideshow. As you guys know, a consultant's been working on McKinnon Road study for a long time. Is it not?
Stephanie Anderson from McKinnon has joined us, I see on Zoom. Welcome, Stephanie.
No, that's not what's on my screen.
There we go, I think, maybe.
There we go. Okay. As most of you guys know, and this is a very short presentation, you guys were all received a copy of this. Hopefully you guys spent a lot of time midnight reading it. It's got a lot of good information. What we tried to do with the consultant is to put it in such a format that most people can understand it. There's enough technical information in it to back up all of their stuff, but there's not so much technical information that I get excited about it and you guys fall asleep. So I think that's the most important part about this. Kind of a little bit of a background on McKinnon Road. McKinnon Road was first conceived back in 1879. And going through the reports, I actually found a petition that was handwritten, can barely read it, that they wanted a road basically from Green River that followed the Blacks Fork across the Henry's Fork to McKinnon and onto the state line. So it's been around that long. There have been various iterations of this road throughout time. As you can imagine, the road's moved. We've gotten different right of ways, everything like that. Kind of interesting, back in December 3rd, 1904, during a county commissioner meeting notes, I actually found that they were going to relocate a portion of the roadway near the T.A. Welsh Ranch by the Henry's Fork. That's all it said. No bearings, distances, no section, anything like that. So it's interesting when you talk to the people down there or people that are familiar with that, they know exactly where it is. I have no clue. Back in 1956, in cooperation with the State Highway Commission, which predates YDOT, this road was paved. We don't know if it was paved before that or it was subsequently paved after that, but that's the first definitive answer that we have that it was paved in 1956. Portion of the roadway was realigned by YDOT in 1994, and various other pavement preservation treatments have been undertaken by county and state forces since then. As you guys are aware, in May 2023, a request for proposal was advertised and the board awarded the study to William H. Smith and Associates in July of 2023. And it was just completed a little bit ago. Kind of just a brief thing about what the RFP was very basic in the intent and scope. And the reason we did that is we didn't want to hamper the engineers into looking at this. This was a study. Go out there and look at everything, evaluate everything. We will give you all the information that we have, and you guys give us what you guys think needs to be done to that road. Obviously, in and out of it, we talked about different things. We talked about costs. We talked about all kinds of different things, but the main focus was to have the engineering firm break up the 27.4 miles of road. If you know, the McKinnon Road actually extends all the way down to the state line. We're not talking about from 414 down to the state line. We refer to that. It is the McKinnon Road, but that's not the part of the McKinnon Road that we're talking about. We're talking about from 530 to 414. The firm was asked to task and develop priorities to fix and rehabilitate the roadway. The direction to the firm were to look at all options, and I can't reiterate this enough. When we talked about all options, we told them to look at closing the road and paving it in concrete and everything in between. Go out there, you know, money's no option in a report. I mean, it's just numbers. Then that way we can actually decide, and you guys can actually decide what is the best thing to do, what's the best thing for the traffic count, and what's the best thing for the overall budget. I want to actually read something because there is a lot of misunderstanding out in the public about this. This was directly out of the RFP. And it says the selected consultant shall provide a planning report that includes breaking the roadway down into multiple sections, evaluating each section of roadway for pavement condition, proposed treatment types and timelines for each treatment type. The consultant shall propose roadway elements, including drive lane width, shoulder runoff, slopes, etc. The consultant will look at multiple surface treatments, including but not limited to full depth reclamation with base stabilization, overlay, cold in place recycle, cold centralized plant recycle, fiber additive options, scrub seal, shoulder widening, localized patching, isolated frost safe solutions, and complete reconstruction of the subgrade basin with traditional construction techniques while providing cost estimates for the treatment. That's basically what the RFP was designed to do. And that's directly out of our RFP on page 1. Sweetwater County Public Works Department want a report that was unbiased and looked at all alternatives. So we actually got a true report that laid out stuff, laid out costs, and laid out anything without anything in between. Andy and I discussed this early on in the process. We could have done this report. However, we wanted them to look at it and do all the surveying and everything, and to come up with all the different alternatives that they have. They actually had a specialist, out of all places, 10 Sleep, Wyoming. The guy's great. He's got my dream job. He fly fishes about 8 hours a day in the summertime and works at night doing that, but he's a consultant. He's consultant on almost all the continents. He specializes in roads down in Africa, Australia, a lot of the United States. He used to work for Caltrans, which don't beat that against him. That was Caltrans back in the 70s. So it's a little bit different. And then he went to work for various construction companies around Nevada and that area. And he brings a lot of wealth because what the big agencies do and what the little agencies do are two completely different things. So what did we get out of it? Basically, they broke the roadway down into 4 different manageable sections for us. They did this so we could actually do projects that were manageable, not only for budget, but made sense. Every different portion of the roadway has been attacked with different means, different needs over the time. And this really gave us a good idea of what was manageable sections. Borehole locations, they actually did boreholes all the way along this. And what we did is there is some frost heaves down there. If you've ever, we call them frost heaves just for ease. It's places in the roadways that have heaved. After the bores came back, we found out that it wasn't actually a frost heave. You know, everybody's seen where frost heaves and then it goes down. It did this several times over the years, and about 4 years ago, the road never went down. And the reason they did that is because they have, without getting super technical, fatty clays underneath the roadway. Fatty clays, what they do is they swell when they get water, and there's so much moisture down there that there was nowhere for those fatty clays to deposit their water. So the road subgrade, which is the most important part of the road, has stayed swollen in those areas and have never went back down. They also use ground penetrating radar through the whole entire length. So we have a really good indication of what the asphalt section looks like with the base section, what the subgrade section looks like. They went down through that whole entire 27 miles and did ground penetrating radar along the whole entire width. So we can actually look at it and go, oh yeah, that frost heave is really 482 feet long because the fatty clays is 4 inches closer to the surface instead of being 2 foot down. It was a really good use of technology. I've never used it on a roadway like this before. Used it a lot for locating water sewer lines and other stuff, rock outcroppings and figuring out, but it's basically been used in the oil field for years. It's based on velocities is all it is. And each material has a different velocity. So what you see on the left side and the right side are the different phases. And you can see that in the report. There's all kinds of pictures of just different surface distresses in the road. We have cracks, we have alligator cracking, which is exactly what it looks. If you've ever imagined what an alligator skin looks like, it's alligator cracking. That's a good indication that the subgrade has failed. There's stripping of the asphalt. And what that is the oil that binds everything together is finally volatile off and it's gone. So the rock doesn't have anything to hold it together. So they gave us different pictures, different ideas of what to do on that. And like I said, they broke everything down. And that's really all of the sections. If you've ever been down to that road, really the first section is about 6 miles long. And then it goes into the YDOT section that you can see has obviously been widened, is a little bit better shape. The next section actually goes down to just about up the hill, and the rest of it takes you down through the Henry's Fork and back to 414. So what did this get us? It gave us a really good recipe to not only continue on with our maintenance, but also give us good ideas of how much money we need to spend over the next 20 years to take care of this road. Typical asphalt has a life of about 20 to 30 years, depending on traffic. It can last longer, it can last shorter, it all depends. You know, if you look at the interstate, it seems like 4 years. It also depends on the aggregate and the grade of aggregate and what type of oil and everything, you know, subgrade. It's amazing. Everybody, there's a meme floating around Facebook if you guys have seen it. Roads look great when the Romans did it and then engineers got involved. True statement. They've actually analyzed the Roman roads and they used a cementatious type material that is fantastic. It really can't be duplicated anywhere in the United States, unfortunately. This gives us a good outline. They gave us what obviously the priorities are. And basically what the priorities are presented here. The very first thing is reconstruction of a roadway that has experienced heaving in all segments, and that's 2024. That's about $804,000. Last year in my budget, I put $1 million away to do construction this year to actually fix these frost days before we had this report. We knew we needed to do something. We just didn't need it to the extent, so I put $1 million in my budget of fuel tax money to do that. Scrub seal on segment number 2. Basically, that's the YDOT portion. That's another $600,000. So I'm going to put another $1 million in my budget this year of fuel tax to take care of that. And what that does is takes care of all the frost heaves, the dangerous areas that are there. And then it takes segment number 2 and lets us not allow us to do anything for 7 to 10 to 15 years. Scrub seals work very well to preserve pavement, but they're not a structural integral portion of the pavement. They don't add any structural integrity to it. They preserve the top of it. They do allow some crack filling and stuff like that, but they really preserve everything. 2025 to 2040, deep paving all segments is an option. That's one of the things we looked at. When you look at deep paving, that's a fancy word for turning it back to dirt. And the reason they call it deep paving is it sounds a lot more PC than turning the road back to dirt. There's actually studies out there out of Minnesota that went through a lot of different iterations, and this is in engineering speak what we landed on, because we're soft sensitive people, deep paving instead of turning it back to dirt. That is an option. That's between $1 million and $2.6 million. There's pulverizing. What I want to talk about is deep paving, pulverizing with varying surface treatments, and stabilizing full depth reclamation with surface options. 3, 4, and 5 are all really the same treatment. It's just how much money that we're going to spend on what we're going to do. Deep paving basically takes a reclamation machine and grinds up everything, and then we blade it in with a motor grader and a roller. We did this very successfully on County Road 2, which is Old Little America Road from the Y out to the Tesoro plant, and it's holding up great. A lot of heavy truck traffic on it, stuff like that. Pulverizing with various surface treatments, there's about 1 million surface treatments that you can do. Out on North Yellowstone for those 3.5 miles on Folsom, Pyramid, and Lester, what we did is we pulverized everything and then added in between 1.5% to 3% cement. Just put cement out on the ground and ground that in there and kind of full depth reclaimed it to make the structural number of the subgrade actually go higher so it stands up longer. They can use foamed asphalt, they can use lime, there's all kinds of stuff out there. Stabilized full depth reclamation with surface options. Basically what that happens is we do the exact same thing as in number 4, but we add different things on top of it. We can do a chip seal, we can do a double chip seal, we can do an auto seal. There's all kinds of different things to do, but basically what we have to do is we have to, in order to get that subgrade fixed correctly, to go from there. One of the interesting things about the report is that we knew is traffic has increased down there a little bit since the last time we did it. Traffic used to be about 76 vehicles a day with 2 semis. It's about at 95 to 104. We haven't went back and actually looked at, hey, did we do this on exactly the right week, and stuff like that. We don't know what's going there, but it has increased a little bit. Truck traffic hasn't went up a whole lot. What that gets us to do is, as you guys remember, when you take a traffic count, that's actually a 2-way traffic count. And that 2-way traffic count, basically what that means is just say, easy math, if there's 100 vehicles a day that are counting that road, basically 50 in each direction. What we did is Andy actually set up 3 traffic control devices that counted them. One down by the Henry's Fork, one about midway, one in the first 6 miles. And why we did that is we wanted that Henry Fork traffic that really just goes back and forth, kind of to the Henry's Fork and up and back. There's a lot of ranches in that area. We wanted to capture that much traffic. The first 6 miles, Williams owns a big compressor station. That's actually where they were going in and doing a lot of the R&D development for specific Atlantic-Trona and those. We wanted to capture how much traffic was on that. And then the one that we put in the middle basically counts your through traffic. That's who is really going back and using the whole entire roadway. Unfortunately, some cows got to that second one and disconnected all the tubes from it. So we got no results off the second one. But we think we got a pretty good, we left it out there for 2 weeks. Most traffic studies take a week. We left it out there for 2 weeks and got a really good base of what was there. So getting back to this, project number 1 and number 2 are going to be handled this year and next year. Obviously, we're going down tomorrow to present this to the McKinnon folks and everybody around to, let them know what we're doing, let them know kind of how the report fared it out and, and get what their feeling is down there. And then as this goes in and we start getting different monies in, start applying for different grants, I'll be in front of you guys a ton referring this report, because this report gave us a really good foundation just going forward. So with that, do you guys have any questions?
Thanks, Gene. It was a very good report, and I learned a lot through that. I don't speak your language, but it was, a lengthy 47 pages, but it was interesting. I mean, it kept my interest the whole time just because I didn't know about alligator cracking and all of that.
Yeah,
but,
all the weird stuff.
I know it's been kind of a contentious issue, and, there is an alternate route that's, 13 extra minutes. And so what does that mean? And I know there's a lot of reservations about de-paving the road. So I guess one question I would have is this phase 1 and 2, so to speak, with that reconstruction over the next couple of years. Is that, obviously a temporary fix? Does that alter if it were to go to the de-paving, or how do all these tie together?
So the fix of frost heaves, basically what we have to do, each frost heave is 420 to about 540 feet long. And those are heaves that are basically stuck up in the road that if you go down and you don't know where they are, you'll catch them there. I pulled the trailer down there plenty enough times that I know exactly where they are. And what that's allowing us to do is to get those back in such a condition, and we'll pave over them for a long-term solution. I hate going back there, and if we're not going to basically fix them and put fabric in and the road base and then pave over the top of them, then you have a road that we're going to have to go down there and maintain in 10 separate areas for about 500 feet. That isn't a good way to spend taxpayers' money. If we're going to do it, let's pave it. What that allows us to do is when we go to de-paving or whatever we decide future down the road, we can either skip over those areas or we can just grind them back in. If you guys have ever been into the Big Sandy openings, from the north end, not the very north end where you actually take the speedway, but it's about milepost 72 on Highway 191. If you guys have ever been down there, you go for about 3 miles and all of a sudden there's a stretch of 2 miles of pavement and then it turns back to same exact thing here. It will not be the whole entire road. We won't do it in one shot. We don't have the money for that, but we'll be over sections where we can actually do these in such a way that makes sure the integrity of the road stays there and it's safe, but doesn't waste money.
Okay. I would assume that's similar to what's on top of, Aspen. You hit little sections of what.
Yeah,
appears to be
well, what
asphalt.
that is, well, honestly, I've worked for a paving company before, and at the end of the day, guys are really tired and they like a place to clean out their paver. And sometimes they just drag it on the road and you get what you get. That's what happened up there. And they just kept dragging
Interesting.
up the road all the way.
Always
through that
wondered
way.
that.
That's really what it was. It has no rhyme or reason to it at all.
Questions, commissioners?
Yes,
Mr. Tillman?
maybe Commissioner Taylor could answer it better, but they want that four-wheeler trail, the SWAT group from Evanston and through. Is that on one of their routes? Maybe we could get some outdoor recreation money to help with that road?
I don't know that answer if it's on the routes. I know we have a meeting later this week where we're going to discuss it with everybody. That's a multifaceted conversation that we need to have, not only with you guys, but also the attorney's office and the sheriff's office. And if it is, and maybe we can apply for one of those. I don't know. That's a stretch. One of the interesting things about that is, we're going through all this industrial siting. There's actually a carve out for oil and gas in there. Oil and gas because of how they do things, never exceeds a limit where they have to go there. There's a ton of traffic down there. And there's a lot of taxes and there's a lot of stuff like that they pay. There's a lot of damage also to that road. And there's going to be some conversations opened up with Williams about, hey, are you guys going to use this or for what can we do to help each other out? And that'll be something that I progress with from there. One of the things I want to get, and for those, and we'll say this again, it's really interesting. That's open range for almost that whole entire area. It's fenced kind of, but it's not fenced on both locations. Early on, I've been here almost 8 years. I contacted the BLM and they said, hey, how would we go about fencing this? As you guys know, Wyoming is a fence out state. If we don't want stuff on our roadway, we have to fence them out. That's what YDOT does all over. And BLM was very reluctant to do that, even if we did a 4-wire smooth bob wire for antelope and migration like that. But if you actually look at the crash report, it's really interesting down there. It goes cow, deer, antelope, cow, deer, antelope. Very seldom are there, vehicular traffic, which is good, but it's, that would go a long ways into helping. We actually have a location called Dry Creek where the cows get water and then they just come right up and you can actually see where the cow trails go up on both sides of the culvert and have eroded the roadway so the shoulders are narrow. The other thing that we can't stress enough is, and I know it's a pain, but if people are driving back and forth to McKinney and they hit a deer, even if they have a big cow pusher or something on their truck and there's not that much damage, report it. Because what happens is the more stuff like that's reported, the more we can say, hey, there's accidents and there's collisions down there. there's federal funding out there for this type of stuff, and it also goes a long way to saying, to walk into the building and say, hey, we have a problem. So if we can do that, and we'll mention that to the residents down there tomorrow.
Commissioner Slaughter?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up to what Mr. Legursky has presented us, and a little information as to the idea of doing the public meeting in McKinnon tomorrow night. Early on in our tenure as commissioners, Commissioner Richards and I went down and met with Mark Anderson. There had been several constituents' concerns about the road at that point in time. So Commissioner Richards and I went down, we spoke with them, let them know that we were in the process of doing this type of analysis for the road, and let them know that we would stay in touch with them through this process. So we originally thought that we were going to receive this report either the end of November, first part of December. And that was what we had originally told those constituents down there. So we continued, or I should say, I continued speaking with them basically on a monthly basis, letting them know the report had been delayed and what was taking place. But that once we received the report, we would come down, we would review the report with constituency down there, and then possibly give them what we would consider to be some options as to what we are thinking about doing with the road from the analysis itself. So once we received the report, I spoke with Gene, we talked about this, I kind of got his idea of where we were going to go with the proposal of the renovations of the road. And at that point in time, felt like it was probably appropriate to make a time, or set aside a time to do a town hall meeting down there with them. Knowing that we were going to receive this report, I wanted to wait until we had some feedback from the commission today before we move forward. But the meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night. Our intent, once again, is to kind of basically go through the same type of presentation that we've done here today. Let them know what was done with the report, the timing, what we propose to do moving forward, and let them make their comments. Then once that is done, I thought we would bring that back to the full commission to talk about it at that point in time, having the full intent of what our facilities department believes should be moving forward, along with those comments from the constituency down there. So that's kind of the intent. I hope that it will go well. Commissioner Richards and I have been planning on going since we set this up. Public Works Director Legursky is going to go, and also Andy Hooten is going to go with us down there tomorrow also. So it should be an interesting meeting. I think it will provide some good information. I think it will show the members of that community that we are considering their needs. And it is something that we are looking at. It's something that we've talked about and has been neglected for a long time. So I think it will be a positive experience. I don't think that everybody's going to be entirely excited with what our proposals are, but I think that it will show goodwill and that we are working towards trying to come up with a better access for them.
Thanks, Commissioner. No, I appreciate that and appreciate your guys' leadership and jumping on that. I know it's been an ongoing concern. We've heard from constituents and even the school district, and it's been a little bit of a hot potato, but I think this report certainly indicates that it's not something that we're putting on the back burner, and it gives us good direction. Of course, with everything, it's a matter of funding, and it sounds like we've got some fuel tax, avenues that can help with the safety issues on the road. So any other feedback, questions, commissioners, on the report?
West, if I may say something on
Go ahead,
that, Commissioner Slaughter and I talked about that, just so you guys know, we get just a little over $3 million in fuel tax. We have about 1,200 miles of county road. 200 miles are paved-ish. And so what that does is, outside of my normal budget for road and bridge, that allows us to do all the project out on the county road that we do. Paint, striping, stuff like that. We're right off the top, that's $500,000 to $600,000 a year. CMAQ, depending on our match, that's in between $50,000 and $80,000. Right now, on all the mine roads that are out there, it's set for the one that goes to Solvay, Tenneco Road, and County Road 2, which will be impacted by the Trona mine. We are going to chip seal. We're going out to bid, I think it's next Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday with that. It's about 18 miles of road. That'll be somewhere in between $1.5 million and $2 million that fuel tax pays for. But that is really important for roads to do. There's not enough money to go around. Back in the 60s and 70s, people reconstructed roads. They paved roads. If you guys have ever been to know where the old town of Bitter Creek is, off the interstate, that road's paved. It's actually in worse shape than this road. There's nobody that lives out there anymore. But we're looking at depaving that road and doing some other treatments on it to preserve that. But back, 50, 60, 70, everybody was flush with money. They didn't realize in 40 years that something would have to be done. And that's a really good source of revenue for us, the fuel tax, to be able to do those things, buy culverts, cattle guards, everything that you guys see out on the road right now. We're hauling 18 loads a day up to Farson to fix soft spots. That comes out of fuel tax money. So it's a really good thing for the 1,200 miles of road that we have to take care of.
Yeah, no doubt. Additional comments, commissioners? Well, I appreciate the presentation. I mean, it kind of paints the picture anywhere from, the cheapest option of 600,000 to $83 million. So I'm glad that they were able to kind of break that up by, the different identifiers and the 6 options within. So we'll be interested to hear more from your guys' presentation tomorrow, and I guess we'll go from there, but thanks for the detail.
All right, thank you.
Moving right along, commissioners, next item under tab C is a public hearing for the Wyoming Federal Lands Access Program grant application for Sweetwater County Road 1, the McKinnon Roadway. And with us this morning is County Grants Manager Christina Marshall. And good morning to you.
Good morning. Excuse me. So we're a little late, but better late than never, right? So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I advertised a public hearing right after Jean's presentation. So I provided in your packet the copy of the public notice. So this is for citizen input regarding a Wyoming Federal Lands Access Program grant application, or a FLAP grant, being consistent with the acronyms. And it is for Sweetwater County Road number 1, or the McKinnon Roadway, which you just heard an update about the needs. When we apply for grants, having community engagement, the opportunity for input is very important. And so today's public hearing is to receive citizen input regarding a potential application. In talking with Jean, this would be for approximately $1.2 million. And the official goal of the FLAP grant is to improve transportation facilities that provide access to, or are adjacent to, or located within federal lands, with an emphasis on high-use federal recreation sites and federal economic generators. So this would be for capital improvements to County Road number 1. And as Jean mentioned, it's primarily used for agricultural and recreation users. And otherwise, this was advertised. I did not receive any comments either by email, phone, or I checked my mail this morning. But with that, all you need to do is a public hearing, and we will plan on putting the actual application on the next agenda. Okay.
Very good and great timing, Christina. Appreciate that. Questions before we open it up, commissioners? With that, we do have a public hearing here for the Wyoming Federal Lands Access Program, the FLAP grant application for the Sweetwater County Road number 1, the McKinnon Roadway. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience or online that would like to speak to this funding opportunity, now would be the appropriate time. Any comments? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. But I agree with Christina's approach there. It's always good to allow the public to have input on that. So thank you for that. And I guess we'll see if they have more tomorrow night. But Thanks very much for preparing that. We'll look forward on the 16th. Next up is item number 3 under tab C, which is a resolution for the notice of intent to vacate a portion of County Road 90, the American Methanol Road. And joining us again is Public Works Director Gene Legursky. Welcome back, Gene.
Welcome back. Thank you. I do apologize for running over on that. I will catch you up in the next 5 or 4 things or whatever.
It's important, so we'll adjust.
I know. That just sometimes it drags on. It doesn't need to. What you have before you is the second step of a vacation of a portion of a county road. As you guys remember, a couple months ago, we came in front of you and said, hey, we need to vacate American Methanol Road from this section to this section. That portion of the road was never built. Matter of fact, on the state lands, it had a 10-year reversionary clause. That went away. What this allows us to do is we're in step 2 of about 5 to allow Cindy to put out all the publications, notify all the adjacent landowners and all that, and collect comments for the next 30 days. All that has been prepared, and we'll work with Cindy like we always do to get those out and to set that up. So really, we're in phase 2 of 5 on this.
Okay, great. Questions for Gene on this resolution, commissioners? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 2404EN01, a resolution for the notice of intent to vacate a portion of County Road 90, the American Methanol Road.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Moving right along under item number 4 today is an MOU between Wydot and Sweetwater County for the use of the Peru plant site during the 2024 chip seal project. And we'll hand it back to Gene.
Thank you, Chairman West. What you have before you is an MOU with Wydot, between Wydot and Sweetwater County. We are putting out our chip seal project. The only thing that'll be manufactured here or done here, there is no contractors that do chip seals anymore in Sweetwater County. So these will be coming from out of state and from further reaches. We do not know how the 2 aggregate suppliers are going to respond, whether they'll allow them to haul the chips directly from their pit, or will they want them to get them out of their pit? So we're just making backup plans. The Peru Hill plant site for many years has been used by Wydot. It's right at the top of Peru Hill on the left-hand side before you go across the Peru Bridge, the railroad tracks. So what we want to do is allow you guys to sign this so it could be passed on to Wydot. We've been discussing this with Wydot. Right now, they don't see any problems with it, but it just gives us a backup plan if the aggregate suppliers make them get all the chips out of their yard, then they have a place to haul them instead of looking for a place.
Makes sense. Good planning. Questions on this MOU, commissioners? I'd entertain a motion to approve the MOU between Wydot and Sweetwater County for the use of Peru plant site during the 2024 chip seal project.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next up is item number 5, a contract for professional services between Van Borum and Frank Incorporated and Sweetwater County for the design of the 2024 rooftop unit and air handler unit detention center replacement and upgrade project. I'll hand it back to Gene.
Thank you, Chairman West, and thank you for explaining what those acronyms are. I really appreciate that.
For once, I understand them.
I knew you would. What this is believe it or not, the jail is approaching 20 years old. Air handling units, rooftop units and stuff like that do have a lifespan. This was I put a portion of this project in the capital from last year. So this is to get the engineering done for the rooftop units. And while we're at it, we're going to look at upgrading the air handling units and what they think of that. That is the main feed for all that. There's about 18 rooftop units of varying tonnages, and then the 2 large air handling units, and then there's a smaller one on top. What this allows us to do is to look at all of them, have the mechanical engineer that originally designed them to go through everything, make sure airflows are right, make sure everything is right, and then look at replacing them in a sequence or all together, depending on funding. Upgrading the telemetry so we can actually control them. The telemetry is almost 20 years old and it doesn't work really well with anything that's new out there. So doing that so we have better control over basically it is the whole entire HVAC unit for the detention facility.
Questions on this contract for professional services, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the contract between Van Borm and Frank Incorporated in Sweetwater County for the design of the 2024 rooftop unit, air handler unit detention center replacement and upgrade project in the amount of $105,840, and allow the chairman to sign all necessary documents.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion? Slowing down for the minute taker. I get in a hurry over here. Sorry. Commissioner Slaughter and then Commissioner Richards. You're welcome. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Gene. Next is item number 6, the approval of addendum number 2 to the fiscal year 2024 capital projects list for Core County. With us again is County Grants Manager Christina Marshall, as well as Public Works Director Legursky. It's a busy one for you too.
I feel like I was here 4.5 minutes ago and that was fast.
Well, welcome back.
Good, there's Lindsay. Okay, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The Capital Committee is requesting approval of addendum number 2 to the fiscal year 24 capital projects list for Core County for repairs to the main sewer line up to $102,342.10. So last year, the county commissioners approved the fiscal year 24 budget that included $8.137 million for Core County capital projects, including debt service and equipment over $10,000. Back in December, you all approved addendum number 1 that moved $80,995,000 from closed projects or completed projects to 5 additional projects on the master list, while still leaving $102,342.10 available. So due to this urgency that we've heard about at the courthouse on the main sewer line, the Capital Committee unanimously actually recommends this unplanned addition to this list. So to refresh your memory, this was the list in your packet of closed projects that have generated the money available to fund projects. Back in December, you approved addendum number 1. And you could see that list of 4 different projects. And today, I'm asking your approval for that light blue section. I know Gene will appreciate it. He told me he has bills to pay. So some staff notes, the estimated cost for the repairs is less than $75,000. Do you have a final number yet? Or okay. So any forfeited balance then could be moved to another project that comes up between now and the end of the year. But per policy, the commissioners need to authorize projects to be added to the list, in which I'll adjust the budgets for them. There's no form to sign, but I know how you love to look at the project. So I include in your packet the master list of capital projects and where we were at the time of this agenda item. So that list is there and you'll see it'll be a very busy spring. You can also guess where some of our carryover money might come from. So with that, that's all I have for you. Gene's also here to answer any questions related to this agenda item.
Thanks, Christina. We appreciate the detail, and I do enjoy looking at that list. I'm a big fan of this capital process. I just think it makes sense and it's open and transparent, and it also shows you that there's only a short few months to spend a lot of money or carry it over. So appreciate you bringing this information. Questions on the addendum, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve addendum number 2 to the fiscal year 2024 capital projects list for Core County as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Slaughter.
I would second that.
Got a second by Commissioner Toman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Moving right along into item number 7, is the approval of the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund Grant Project Memorandum of Understanding between Sweetwater County and the Sweetwater County Library System. Back to Christina, Jean, and we've got Library Director Lindsay Travis joining us. Morning.
This is, I guess my next item. I have another one later, but anyhow. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the Sweetwater County Library System is very excited to have been awarded $1,475,645.80 from the Wyoming Library Multipurpose Community Facility Program. This grant originates from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund from the U.S. Department of Treasury. So this funding must be obligated by December 31st, 2024. You've all heard of that rush to get things obligated this year, but the project itself must be substantially completed by September 30th, 2026. Those are the rules put by the state so they can try to close out projects. So the purpose of the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund is to make investments in infrastructure that directly enable work, education, and health monitoring. The Sweetwater County Library System will use this funding for renovations and 3 multi-purpose rooms at 3 different locations that will improve space, connectivity, and access to the internet. So the Sweetwater County Library System is requesting assistance from Sweetwater County to manage the grant award and oversee the capital construction. The purpose of this memorandum of understanding is to clarify each entity's responsibilities relative to the grant project and grant funding. And I would like to mention their grants are also part of our financial and compliance report too. So the budget, as I mentioned, is $1,635,906.80. Actually, I did mention that. I mentioned the grant award, and the difference is $160,261. I just want to point out, of that amount, $59,000 is actually for technology and furniture, and that would have been part of their regular capital request to the county and the capital projects, but that was ineligible under the grant. And then second, there was $101,261. I recommended removing that in the project proposal. It's for kitchenettes at all 3 locations. If you've been there, they have kitchenettes in those rooms. And also for a general space in the quarter. We didn't want the grant application to just tank because of focus on something that was not technically a slam dunk under that funding. So that money will be included in for the capital construction and the technology, both actually in fiscal year 25 and 26 budget, not just next year. It'll be over multiple years. The commission actually authorized this project back in September, on September 19, 2023. And actually on the next agenda, Jean will be presenting the design and engineering contract, I believe. But there are a couple items I would like to emphasize in the MOU that I drafted. So if you pull up in your packet on page 2, the MOU, under number 2 in the middle of the page, after the now, therefore, blah, blah, blah. I just want to point out and reiterate that the library is responsible for providing all correspondence, information, etc., related to the award to the relevant county point of contacts, including but not limited to all those acronyms. Any material not communicated that leads to non-compliance or missed deadlines will be their responsibility. Bottom line is Jean and I aren't mind readers, and we're going to do the best we can to make this successful. The next point I want to emphasize is on 3A. When I added this language, says in the middle there, under budget, in the event the cost of the grant project exceeds the $1,635,906.80. The library will be responsible for finding a remedy, including modifying the scope of work or procuring other funding. Any changes will require final approval by you all. We want to control the costs. We are very concerned about supply chain, inflation, the competition for capital projects as a result of all the money in the community. So I wanted to note that. And then finally, on the last page, or on page 3 of 4, there was a little typo, sorry, on number 4, upgrades. The final draft has upgrades. And then finally, under number 5A, I just want to point out the primary point of contacts from the library is first Lindsay Travis, who's getting 1 million emails. So she's overseeing the whole show. And then for the fiscal part, I'll be in a lot of contact with Leora Kraft. I'll be overseeing the reimbursements and preparing them. And then for the county, Gene got delegated another project. Just add them on. So he's overseeing all the construction. I feel a lot better about that. And I'm doing the finance and compliance. And that's it on my end. I'm not sure if Jean or Lindsay have any comments they want to add to that, or if you have questions at this point.
Thanks, Christina. We appreciate that. It's always very good detail. Questions for Christina first, commissioners?
Good
Jean
job.
or Lindsay, do you guys have anything you want to add? No? Well, again, I think this is a very exciting improvement for the library system, and kudos to you all for going after it. And yeah, even with a almost 10% match, I think that's money well spent that improves a county facility, and we look forward to those improvements. So thanks to staff for all of the continued tracking and reporting and work that will come with that. But it's always good when you can go after somewhat free money. Any comments or questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund Grant Project Memorandum of Understanding between Sweetwater County and the Sweetwater County Library System as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thank you all. Appreciate it. And you caught us up. Look at that. We're ahead. With that, we're about 12 minutes ahead of schedule, commissioners. So we will come back at 11 o'clock for a whole list of proclamations. So you get to witness me stutter through those, but we'll resume here at 11 o'clock. Take a quick break.
every other day. But I'll talk to you about it.
Call this meeting back to order. We are back. I got Mary on my left. We are back from break, and where we left off under tab C is item number 9. We've got 4 proclamations this morning. So kick back for a bit, commissioners, but first up is National Library Week. I'll probably read all of these. I'll ask if anyone wants to speak before we read them, and then at the end, if you guys want to take pictures, we'll present. I believe we have a copy of the proclamations. So first, we've got Director of the Sweetwater County Library System, Lindsay Travis here. Did you have any words you wanted to share first? Good morning.
Morning, Chairman West and Commissioners. We have some gifts.
We
So
like
I'd to
those.
bring gifts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. How are you? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that's always a good thing.
Thanks very much.
Aha, see, she's getting smart.
That'll be lunch if we don't.
But he said
on
hits
time.
the ants.
So I have with me this morning, Becky Iwan. She is our youth manager here at the Green River Library. And she has a much more fun job than I do. She gets to do all sorts of fun things to bring kids into the library, which is a big part of what we do. April 7th through the 13th is National Library Week, a week where people across the country celebrate and advocate everything that libraries have to offer. But of course, for those of us who work at the library, every week is Library Week. The mission of the Sweetwater County Library System states that the library system improves the quality of life in our communities, and we work very hard to do that every single day. We work to make sure that the libraries are welcoming spaces for everyone in our community. Another part of our mission states that the library encourages a lifelong joy of reading and learning for all, especially children. That's one of the things that Becky spends a lot of time doing. She puts together really fun youth programs for kids in our community, along with our other youth managers at the Rock Springs and the White Mountain libraries. If you walk by her desk, she always has fun toys and crafts, and I can't even cut a line straight. So we're really lucky to have people like Becky in our library system. One of the things that we're really happy to be offering now at the libraries is our new Spanish language story time that's at the White Mountain Library. We're holding that once a month over there. Outside of children's programs, we also have opportunities for adults through arts and crafts programs, reading programs, and providing spaces to hold meetings, as we talked about earlier with the grants to improve our meeting spaces at the libraries. We also offer computers and printing to all members of the community. Our computers were used more than 2,000 times just last month. So that's a very popular service in our libraries. So to celebrate National Library Week, we are encouraging everyone to stop by any of the Sweetwater County libraries next week to see all the things that we have available. We'll be providing treats to the community at each of our Green River and Rock Springs libraries. That'll be on Monday at the Rock Springs Library, Tuesday at the Green River Library, and Wednesday at the White Mountain Library. So we hope you can stop by. Do you have any questions for us?
Thanks, Lindsay. Busy schedule here. You guys have plenty to do. It's exciting. Any questions or comments for Lindsay or Becky, commissioners? Well, if not, we'll look forward to senior innovations take place as well, and it's some exciting news. With that, we do have a proclamation for National Library Week 2024. And it reads, whereas libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions, no matter where they are on life's journey. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions, striving to ensure equitable access to information and services for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, developing and expanding collections, programs, and services that are as diverse as the populations they serve. And whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Whereas libraries play a pivotal role in economic development by providing resources and support for job seekers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, thus contributing to local prosperity and growth. Whereas libraries are an essential public good and fundamental institutions in democratic societies working to improve society, protect the right to education and literacy, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. And now therefore be it resolved that we, the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners, proclaim National Library Week, April 7th through the 13th, 2024. And during this week, we encourage all residents to visit their Sweetwater County libraries and celebrate the adventures and opportunities they unlock for us each and every day. Thank you both very much for all that you do. We'll read through the others and then we'll present the proclamation to you. If you don't mind. Thanks very much. Next, we have the Public Safety Telecommunicator Week proclamation. And with us today is Executive Director Rick Hawkins and some staff members. Good morning to you all. Thanks for joining us.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, seems like I was just here a couple weeks ago or something like that, but
We know the feeling.
well, good morning. I'm here. My name's Rick Hawkins. I'm the Executive Director of the Sweetwater Combined Communications Center. And with me today, I have one of our shift supervisors. Her name's Jen Buller. And on my left, I have our PIO and communicator that works up at the center. That is Angie Hook. Today, we would like, in honor of National Telecommunicators Week, which is April 14th through the 20th of this year, we would like to present each of you with a challenge coin in appreciation of your continued support. You may wonder, what is a challenge coin? A challenge coin is a specially designed coin. It's given to confirm membership in an organization or a group. A challenge coin can also honor a person for a special achievement. The purpose of a challenge coin depends on why it was made in the first place. It can be used for membership or recognition, to create a bond between the people or group, or to commemorate an anniversary or special event. We want to present you each with one for your continued support of the Joint Communications Center, to show that we appreciate what you do on the financial end and other things. So if they would hand them out, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, who's beeping? It's driving me nuts. Thank you very much.
We're back.
You're good.
All right, we'll get that figured out at lunch, but thank you all. Sorry for that. It's been beeping all morning and it's
That's fine.
distracting, but
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. So we're here to accept the proclamation.
very good. Any comments or questions? Communication Center before we read the proclamation, commissioners? All right. With that, we do have the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week proclamation, which is April 14th through the 20th. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone 911 communications centers. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Sweetwater County Combined Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Sweetwater County, Wyoming, do hereby declare the week of April 14th through the 20th, 2024, to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. And thanks for all that you do. Without a doubt, the unsung heroes of this operation, and thanks for your professionalism and for coming over this morning.
Very good. Thank you.
The next proclamation this morning, commissioners, is for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I do believe we've got Melinda Boss, the YWCA Executive Director, and Lindsay Travis. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you, commissioners, for letting us come again this year. Appreciate being able to do this. We're officially the one that gets to declare the whole month. We didn't want just a week, we wanted a month. But that's because, I mean, honestly, our topic is not as fun. It's a hard topic to talk about. It's a hard issue to bring up. But the goal of having proclamations and doing months of awareness is to start conversations. The whole point about this is to start a conversation, is to be able to discuss these issues. If we don't discuss them, they don't go away. This is how they hide. I can give you a few basic statistics just to give you a sense of the scope of what we're talking about here. If you look nationwide, 1 in 6 women experience sexual assault in their lifetime. 1 in 33 men will experience it in their lifetime. A scary one is that over half the sexual assaults occur at or near a victim's home. This is not strange corners, dark alleys. This is right where we live. 8 out of 10 rapes are committed by someone known to the victim. And last year, YWCA helped 36 victims of sexual assault. That's just 1 year. So if you double that out and you can see where the statistics of 1 in 6 and 1 in 33. It happens in Sweetwater County. And only about a third of the victims actually report to law enforcement and go forward with a report. This is one of the more underreported crimes, and we understand why. It's hard. And it's hard as well, not just for the simple fact of what it does to bring a case from an incident to a conviction, but it's hard for the victim to tell that story again and again and again with strangers. But it's also an issue in that there are so many things where people don't believe a victim. It's so easy to say, this just happens to others. It didn't happen to me. It was what they were wearing. It was something else. But each of those is just a way to try to make ourselves feel safer. And really what we need to do is be able to stand up and say something against it. Because it doesn't matter what you wear, how much you drank, or how late you were out. None of those mean consent. And that is the conversation we want to have, is consent and respect between one another. So there's a couple events during the month of month of April that I want to make sure to highlight to you that you can be involved in. First of them is on April 24th. That's what's called Denim Day. And it leads into this idea of misperceptions of what happens in sexual assaults. Denim Day is very simple. It's the argument that came out of a small incident in an Italian court almost 25 years ago. And what happened was the Supreme Court overruled a rape conviction because the justices felt that the victim was wearing tight jeans, and thus the perpetrator must have had her help, and thus it was her consent. And the women in the Italian parliament became outraged at this and instead chose the next day to wear jeans to the parliament in protest and in solidarity with the victims. And that started a national campaign. And the idea is on April 24th, wear jeans and put that up on any social media platform you have with the hashtag Denim Day. If you ever want to look up more about the history or the movement, you can always just look up Denim Day and it will pop up as one of the first things on Google. So we encourage you to do that. Could be a great commissioner picture altogether, everybody in denim. So the other one is on April 27th at Young at Heart Senior Center in Rock Springs. We're going to have our Run with the Badges event. That is our awareness event that we do every year, have done for 10 years. This is our 10th anniversary. And it's done in collaboration with all law enforcement agencies in Sweetwater County. So we have Rock Springs PD, Green River PD, Highway Patrol, Sheriff's Department, and the County Attorney's Office, all part of this. And so we will have our 10K, 5K run and walk. We will have booths with awareness events, and then we will have awards for officers who have given special service to victims throughout the year. So encourage anyone to come. The race starts at 9. If you're not up for walking, you're welcome to just hang out and wait till everybody comes back and then we can cheer. Otherwise, you're welcome to do the run, which the registration starts at 8. And again, that's the 27th. So the only last thing I wanted to announce to you is just more of an information for you, is that we have done a lot of changes at the Y. And one of those is we've moved all of our domestic violence and sexual assault programs to a new address. So we are really excited about this. We've gotten a new location. We have almost all new staff. And so we're looking to really celebrate this. And it's actually being a revision of name. We're now calling it just our Victim Advocacy Center. It's no longer Center for Families and Children. It is Victim Advocacy, much more descriptive of what we do and the services we offer. So I'm going to pass these out for the commissioners over there. These are invitations for you to come to our open house. It is next week on the 9th. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and you can see once you get on K Street, which is where we are, you will definitely find us. Our windows are very visible of what our thing is. I did always want to joke that we found the old history of the building, because this building was built very early in the 1900s, maybe late 1800s. Behind us officially was one of the former brothels of the neighborhood. I did think it was funny that our domestic violence and sexual assault advocacy was almost going to be in a brothel but there was our history for the Wyoming. So I appreciate your giving us this opportunity to talk, as well as the proclamation showing your support for awareness and education on this issue.
Well, thanks, Melinda. We appreciate that information, and it sounds like you've got some exciting expansions underway, and we'll look forward to learning more on that. Comments or questions for Melinda, commissioners? If not, we do have a proclamation for you all. And it reads, whereas the Sweetwater County Commissioners recognize the importance of designating a time devoted to increasing public awareness of sexual assault and support of agencies providing services to victims of sexual assault. And whereas volunteers and service providers in our community work to provide a continuum of care and services to sexual assault survivors through a 24-hour hotline, counseling, support groups, advocacy, medical care, and education. And whereas the YWCA Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Program promotes sexual assault prevention by offering educational presentations to schools, churches, and civic organizations, as well as professional training and collaboration with medical, mental health, law enforcement, educators, and criminal justice personnel regarding sexual assault issues. And whereas the YWCA requests public support and assistance as we hold forth the vision of a community free from sexual violence. Now therefore we, the Board of County Commissioners in and for Sweetwater County, Wyoming, proclaim the month of April 2024 to be Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we commend the observance of all citizens by urging each to learn what can be done to combat sexual violence and offer prevention measures and support and services to survivors. Teal bracelets will be made available throughout the community to wear in support of awareness of sexual assault during the month of April. Run with the badges will be held on Saturday, April 27th. The 5K, 10K run or walk will start at 9 a.m. at the Young at Heart Senior Center in Rock Springs. Thank you all for all the good things you do for Sweetwater County and for coming over this morning to allow us to learn more about your programs. We'll get this on our calendar for the 9th, and we'll look forward to continuing to support you where we can.
I appreciate that.
Thanks
Thank
very
you very
much. And with that, commissioners, we do have one final proclamation, which is the Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. I don't know if we've got anyone here in attendance for that. Yeah, we're also about 25 minutes ahead of schedule. So with that, we're going to move right along, unfortunately. But the last proclamation is the County Commissioner's Proclamation for Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention. Whereas children are our future, no child should suffer abuse and neglect. And whereas victims of child abuse and neglect are known to be at higher risk for experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, low academic achievement, drug use, juvenile delinquency, teenage pregnancy, and adult criminality. Every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, nurturing environment free from harmful effects of abuse and neglect. And whereas an estimated 800 children in Wyoming are victims of abuse and neglect each year. And whereas effective child abuse intervention and community prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among community members, social services, and law enforcement agencies, schools, churches, businesses, and civic organizations. And whereas each April, Child Advocacy Centers of Wyoming, the Children's Trust Fund Board, Prevent Child Abuse Wyoming, Wyoming Citizen Review Panel, the Wyoming Department of Family Services, the Wyoming Office of Attorney General, Division of Victim Services, the Wyoming Guardian Ad Litem Program, the County of Sweetwater, Wyoming, and other partners join together in an effort to prevent abuse and neglect through outreach, education, and intervention. Now, therefore, we, the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners, by virtue and authority invested in us, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Awareness Month and Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. And I guess if they hop back on, we will try and present that to them. But with that, commissioners, that concludes the proclamations. At this time, I'd like to present them. We'll go in order there, starting with the library. And would you all join us for a picture? Who's got them all? Rob, you got them down there? I always forget that.
We stopped doing the pin-on ribbons only because they kept getting left. I found them on clothes 6 years after. I've got everybody in. Oh, I don't. Okay, then you're gonna turn completely sideways. There we go. Okay, then you'll kind of smush a little bit closer and I can get it. Now I've got it. All right. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, I always take a couple. That's fine.
Take the yellow thing off.
I like the yellow. Cindy's trying to go, can you yeah, let me take the tabs off. Okay, you're gonna have to squish closer or somebody's gonna have to stand in front of somebody, because otherwise you do. Okay, you two on that side has to go in a little bit closer. Determine, you have to pretend you like each other. That's how this goes. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Figure out a 3 and you're gonna find one.
You're really free.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I pulled stairs going. All right.
Advisor follows it, but. Okay. I was gonna say, we have some of the signs at our office, and so we do it as well. We just don't do a big thing ourselves. It's somebody else.
We didn't print that one for some reason, so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We're not there yet, ma'am.
There's no stickers on those, so it's hard to find it. I will text her and tell her she can talk tomorrow, right?
Yeah. That's still you. Ding, ding.
I don't have it on, I swear.
It's coming through the speaker.
Not me. Never was mine. Straight out back to you? No, it's still there. It looks good. It looks very nice. All right.
Thanks all. Appreciate what you do.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve proclamations declaring National Library Week, Public Safety Telecommunicator Week, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and Child Abuse Prevention Month.
And Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to second that.
Thanks, commissioners. I always forget that part. So we do have a motion to approve and accept the proclamations as presented by Commissioner Richards. We've got a second by Commissioner Toman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous.
I did say aye, sorry.
And with that, we'll move right along into somewhere I lost my agenda.
Catering permit.
Item number 13, which is a catering permit application for the Eden Saloon and RV Park LLC, doing business as Eden Saloon for the Steinlight benefit. And commissioners, Any questions on this? Or excuse me, I'll hand it back. I got all off balance there. Welcome, Clerk Lane. We're multitasking today. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Before you, I have an application for catering permit for the Steinlicht benefit with the Eden Valley or Eden Saloon and RV Park in Eden Valley for your approval. The event will take place on April 6th through April 7th, hosted by the Eden Saloon, Michael Smith.
Now, with that, Commissioners, are there any questions on the application for the catering permit?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards?
Cindy, where is this benefit going to be located? Do you know?
At the Eden
Um,
Community Center, the
yes.
family's house burned down and they're doing a fundraiser.
Didn't see that on the
I
application.
did not see that on there either.
Yeah. So if
So
you want a
yes,
fun
at the
time,
community center.
yeah, the Eden Community Center, the Sundowner Band is coming in, so it'll be a fun time and invite everyone. A lot of
Okay.
community people from town come out also.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards?
move to approve the application for catering permit for Eden Saloon and RV Park for the Steinlicht benefit.
And I would second that.
Do you have a motion to approve the catering permit as presented by Commissioner Richards? We got a second by Commissioner Toman.
You have to have a public hearing on that?
Mm-mm.
No.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thank you,
thank
Cindy.
you.
Commissioners, that puts us just about 30 minutes ahead of schedule, which is nice for once. So with that, we're going to take an early lunch break. And hopefully we can get a hold of some of these other presenters. Depending on how long Mary talks at lunch, we may be back on schedule. So plan on being back here by about 1 o'clock. Break for lunch.
And read it again for you.
Take a picture.
We're live. Okay. We're gonna call this meeting back to order. We were ahead of schedule, obviously, and had our final proclamation there, and we didn't realize that the folks were out in the hallway, so we apologize for that, but we're gonna redo it now that you're here, and we appreciate you coming over. Is there anything you wanted to say before we read the proclamation? Bashful on the microphone, huh? Very good. Well, we'll go back and sure. Can you at least introduce yourselves for the record? Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Bettina Engel. I'm a social services supervisor for the Department of Family Services. And today we're here to sign in a proclamation to prevent child abuse awareness. And it's for the Sweetwater County CPT meeting, so Child Protection Team meeting. And today we have some DFS workers here. We have, would you like them to introduce themselves or do I
Introduce them, whatever's easiest.
Lamar Westbrook, he is a probation supervisor for the Department of Family Services. Sean Page, he's also a child protective services supervisor. And we also have Samantha Gatley, she's a social services worker. And Leslie Johns, a social services worker, and both of them also do help out with child protection team meeting items.
Very good. Thanks for all you guys do for the community. We're happy you got a hold of us for this proclamation. We just had a list of 4 of them today, so it's been kind of busy with that, but certainly important work, and we're happy to proclaim that. So with that, we'll read the proclamation and present it to you, if you're good with that.
Perfect, thank you.
Absolutely. So the County Commissioner's proclamation is for Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month, whereas children are our future. No child should suffer abuse and neglect. And whereas victims of child abuse and neglect are known to be at higher risk for experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, low academic achievement, drug use, juvenile delinquency, teenage pregnancy, and adult criminality. Every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, nurturing environment free from harmful effects of abuse and neglect. And whereas an estimated 800 children in Wyoming are victims of abuse and neglect each year, and whereas effective child abuse intervention and community prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among community members, social services and law enforcement agencies, schools, churches, businesses, and civic organizations. And whereas each April, Child Advocacy Centers of Wyoming, the Children's Trust Fund Board, Prevent Child Abuse Wyoming, Wyoming Citizen Review Panel, the Wyoming Department of Family Services, the Wyoming Office of Attorney General, Division of Victim Services, the Wyoming Guardian Ad Litem Program, the County of Sweetwater, Wyoming, and other partners join together in an effort to prevent abuse and neglect through outreach, education, and intervention. And now therefore, we, the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners, do proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. And thanks very much for all that you do, and join us for a picture to celebrate all of your great efforts.
Thank you, yes.
And sorry for the confusion with it all. It's been an interesting morning. Okay, real quick, now that we've reproclaimed that one, we appreciate those individuals coming over, and we are now going to take a break for lunch, and we'll resume back here about 1 o'clock.
We're going to eat, Mr. Chairman.
We guys feel like continue the trend or try something different? Thanks, John.
I don't know how to do that.
Maybe I need to. I can do that. Because if you go in the waiting room, then it moves up and time out before you even go. As long as somebody's in there, active on it.
The only thing I have is leave. So,
Are we still live?
okay.